Hello. Smooth, smooth like butter. And it's kind of working. Okay. La 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 la. Ba da da ba da ba 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 da. Where's my Slack? There it is. Thank you, sir. I'm ready to go all in.
Sitting like a silk t-shirt. So bad.
All right. Excited? You look excited.
I got here way too early. I've been doing nothing for 30 minutes.
Okay, cool. Sounds about on par.
The decision. Okay.
All right, so today we're going to continue down the path that we've started this week, and we're going to make sure that we're feeling 100% comfortable with constructors, and we are going to create a simple application that takes user input and then utilizes the constructor, okay? And then, of course, creates objects based on that user input that it takes. And then lastly, we're going to try to understand the basics of what's called recursion. And we're going to learn how this process can be used to loop through a series of prompts multiple times, okay? So basically, all that that means is that we're going to develop a more complex relationship today. So with these it didn't let me finish. A more complex relationship in a bad way. No, what we're going to do is we're going to develop a more complex relationship with these constructors that we've been using, and we're going to learn how, like we already said, to utilize user input to drive these constructors, as well as looping to create multiple objects if necessary. Okay? Or take information from multiple prompts, or whatever the reason is that we need to loop or iterate over some information. Okay? So, is everyone settled and ready to learn? Put your learning hats on. Crisscross applesauce. Does anyone know crisscross applesauce? Derek, where's Derek? Got to know it. You know Chris. Wait, no, you teach older babies. Yeah. There's no Chris. No. Fleek. It's Fleek now? Wow. Well, so, and when I was growing up, we had a thing where we would sit with our legs crossed. Does everyone remember that from school? Do you remember what it was called when you sat that way? Indian style. That's right. Thank you. Now, they do not say that anymore. Now, it is crisscross applesauce, the hands holding some applesauce. Very, very PC world we live in nowadays. I don't know what to tell you there. All right. I'll never crisscross applesauce. I'll always do it Indian style. Okay. So we're going to start with a little warm-up exercise to refresh ourselves and get, do some stretching of our mind. So what we're going to do is we're going to slack out these set of instructions now. once we get these instructions. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to create a constructor function called programmer. And this is going to be used to create objects containing information about programmers. Okay? So, and then what we're going to do is we're going to create a method for the constructor. And we talked about how we can do that after the fact. We can add methods to our prototype, right? Everyone remembers how we did that, right? Okay, cool. And then finally, we are going to do something that we did last time, which is call that object and print out the contents of that object to the console. Okay? So those instructions are being sent out. And that will be our opening activity. And this is just to make sure we fully understand our constructors. Do you guys like how Roger puts the little timer up here? I feel like that's just like tedious. Like it's like.
Yeah, I'm fine without this.
Yeah. Yeah, you just feel kind of rushed, like you have to like stare at it. Hey, Holly, do you ever work on the IoT stuff over at IBM?
I've done some work with it.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. Have you ever heard of ThingWorks? It's like this IoT provider thing that it's able to cross-reference like every different thing and show you reports on you can like grab any number of the things and like run various reports on them or whatever. But it's like an interface that we're kind of trying to mimic for this product that we're building. No, their thing is IoT. What they're doing, what we're going to be doing with is like management as a service, software as a service, management as a service, controlling it. My company is getting this Homeland Security thing too. Should be interesting. Part of it is to actually fly there to Washington and teach them how to be agile. Well, there's this initiative where basically by whatever date, every government agency must switch over to cloud. They can't be rooted in their own servers anymore. It comes down to the power of the technology is not owning it; it's actually using it. You know, so.
That's what concerns me.
Well, yeah.
You got Ethel.
Well, no, putting it in the hands of the private sector, at least the infrastructure, is probably a better idea than letting the government do it.
I'm just thinking about like I've seen those secretaries that keep all their passwords just like right there.
Oh yeah.
You can't fix that.
Well, we would give you your welfare check, but the cloud is down. Yeah, it's called Fed Cloud and Gov Cloud are the names of the project. It's an initiative across the entire government, and Presidio is running the whole thing. Woo! Woo, Presidio.
Have fun.
There's a lot of government projects there, but I'm actually in Skunkworks project, so I don't have to deal with like anything. Yep.
All of their orders whenever I was in that field, and it was like actually surprising. The little nonprofits that came out and made some pretty cool software for it.
Picked up some
Like,
opportunity.
better.
Yeah.
But the interesting part is that after you filed it, you still have to take the paperwork physically
Yeah, I know.
to the office anyway to get the right person.
The county will never. The county's like 20 years behind, and law is the same way. Like that, the county portal for doing that for e-filing is fucking terrible. Like it's crash all the time.
I used it, you know, the free file texes.
Smart contracts. Foolish on that. But you would think that the city of Austin would have some of the best portals and government sites and things like that, but they're terrible. The Austin Utilities one, oh my God. And they've improved. What's wrong?
I have them on a different tab. That's like so much easier.
Just paste the instructions in there.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Domino's pizza button? Speaking of IoT stuff, have you seen the Domino's pizza button? Have you seen the Google buttons? Have you heard of that before?
Amazon.
Yeah, it's like boop, yeah, like pizza. Boop.
That's terrible.
Huh? It's like a little smart device that just says Domino's and has a button, and I don't know how it works. Yeah, I know exactly. Like
the app, you save your pizza on the app, so when you click it
from the app, it's app based and Bluetooth. It's interesting.
Yeah.
That's what the Internet of Things is. Pizza buttons.
Or like Interstellar.
State like.
Kind of working on all this kind of vibe.
Yeah.
That's like fucked up. That's IoT right there.
Yeah, yeah. It's like every bathroom cam. On Internet of Things. It's got things in that internet. La 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 la. Ba, 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 ba. It's an Internet of Things. Internet of Things. How many things does the Internet have? Lots of things in that old Internet. Do you see all the things? Presidio.
Yeah, especially people are about to get suckered out. Some people try to rope me in my old job to get into that Kiani bullshit.
Oh, is that another? Good Lord, this place just milks that whole industry. Yeah, I'm saying. Reverse funnel. Don't you want to pimp the people you know and love?
Right?
Hey, don't you have some elderly relatives with money? Sucker them. They'll give money to almost anyone. It's not going to be you. It's going to be someone calling up, one of those call scams. Jeez.
got hit by one of those scammers.
Yeah.
You're too ashamed to call.
They're pretty advanced.
The
You
problem
know,
is
they'll.
he didn't get money, and then he called me, but then he still like, I was looking at this scam. So I got a scam from some Chinese investor, and I actually wrote him in Chinese.
Did not know. Did not compute. I got one from a guy from Cameroon who spelled Cameroon wrong. Sorry, prerequisite of living in the country is being able to spell it. I'm like, you're Nigerian. Don't try to tell me you're from Cameroon. I've known so many Nigerian people. Like in Houston has a huge Nigerian immigrant population or whatever, and they're not scammers. But for some reason, everyone just always assumed that the scammers are from Nigeria.
Even this girl who was that I used to work with, I forget where she's from, but her family.
Yeah.
Some guy came and she like had her respond to us in Nigeria. Like when he leaves, she's missing. He comes back to say he's missing his ring and one is stolen.
Oh wait, now that you mention that, I do have one Nigerian friend, but he's American. He's born. Well, I think he moved here when he was 3, and he just he's a really master shoplifter. Won't ever stop. Okay, cool.
Whenever you want to see, just be like, hey, buddy.
Transmission fluid usually. He's steal. Yeah, he would steal transmission fluid from the convenience store because he had a leak in his transmission. Yeah. It's not. It's one of the more pricey items in a convenience store, though. I mean, it's not cheap. Yeah. Well, it's not as easy to shoplift from Pep Boys, I think. All right, cool. So everyone's finished with that then, yes? Yeah? Okay, it sounded like everyone was. I can give you some more time. We can hide this. Did never happen.
I was like, mine doesn't look like that.
You can't go backwards in the live stream portion. You have to wait till it gets on YouTube, and then you can.
You can.
Oh, really? You can rewind in the live one?
Yeah, you just have to drag the slider.
Well, I didn't know that. Wow, that's cool. So then it's kind of like whenever you drag it back, you just pick up wherever the live stream is. Huh. Now that's an Internet of Things. It's gonna be my new catchphrase. Now that's an Internet of Things. Or there's things in that internet. Sorry, I've never heard someone explain IoT like where like anyone layperson can understand it. It's always like this mythical thing. So how did my phones go? Fed. Oh, look. It's like, here's your blink splat.
No, I missed something really crucial.
All I did was
Okay. Now, is everyone finished with it? Yes? Yeah? You got it? Got it? Everyone's got it? Got it? Got it? Getting it? Got it? Cecile, you got it? Oh, you're moving on to the next step, huh? No, it's not. It's a few steps down from here, but okay. So let's take a look at how we would set up this kind of starting exercise that we have for ourselves. So let's take a look at this. This is the completed file, and we can go ahead and start at the top where we have our constructor function. So we build a function that takes 4 arguments, and then we apply those to variables in the creation of an object. Then what we are doing is we are adding a new method called printInfo to the prototype of the programmer object that basically just logs all that information of the particular object. The new programmer object is initialized to Bob and is provided with the necessary properties. That should really be Martin Fowler instead of Bob Smith. And then, has anyone ever heard of Martin Fowler or Marty Fowler? He wrote a really good book called Refactorable Programming, is that what it's called? Anyways, I'll send out the link to that. And then finally, what we're doing is we're running our method to verify that our object got created. Okay? Any questions? Yes. So the prototype is like the model that is created by our constructor function. And what we're doing, and the reason that we're using prototype, is that we want to add that method, that print info, to every object that's built off that constructor. So what we're doing is we're like changing the mold a little bit inside of our thing, which is why we call it the prototype. And so then that prototype is extended out to all the other objects. So if there was more objects than just that Bob Smith object or Bob object, like there was a Steve object next, it would get that method as well because it's been added to the prototype. You could, but the thing is that every time it creates an object, it has to reinstantiate that method. Whereas it only instantiates it once if we add it as a prototype. Yep.
Because I did it in the
Yeah, you can. That's one way to do it. I think in the instructions it asks you to add it after your constructor, but yeah, it will still add it if you add it into the actual constructor itself. Any other questions? None? Okay, so since I think we've all completed the activity, or we now have completed the activity when we see this, can we go ahead and Slack this code out to everybody now? This programmer, the programmers.js in the first one. So once we all have that code and we can look at it on our own screen, the next thing we ask ourselves is, well, what if we have to create another object, another programmer? What will we have to do to create another programmer, given what we see here?
Yeah.
15? Yeah. So we would have to then add another line. And then if we have another user, then we have to add another line. And it'd be pretty tedious to have to sit here and constantly do these lines and create these different objects, right? So then, with that in mind, we go to wanting to have user input come in, save us from this monotony of writing these lines. So let's take a look at this version. Okay. So right off the bat, what do we notice in the first line of this particular piece of code? Require inquirer. Okay. Require inquirer require. Inquirer require inquire. Right. So what does that mean? What does that mean to us as setting up this project? What do we have to do? We have to install inquirer. Okay. Just making sure we're all still awake. Okay, so then let's take a look at how it's used this time. Once again, we have the same constructor function. Nothing's changed there. Then we have the same prototypal way of adding a method after the constructor, right? And that is being added to the prototype, which gets sent out to all of the objects created from that prototype. Then what we're doing is we're running a series of questions, and we're storing those variables inside answers, okay? And then at the bottom of this kind of set of questions that are prompt to the user, then we have the then function, okay? And so this is pretty important because it's not going to run this until it's completed gathering all that data through inquirer, right? So whenever that process is done, then what we're doing is we're creating a new programmer, And we're using the answers that were provided in that object answers to fill out the necessary arguments that this constructor is looking for. So these 4 arguments that we see here are now being supplied by these 4 questions, which we are then adding into our new object, creating a new object from that prototype once we have those answers. Okay? Notice how the print method is inside of the then function. Why is that important? Yeah. It'll give us an error basically. Yeah. Because if there's no object yet, it may run that function before the object's even finished, before it's finished getting us all these questions. But we know that nothing will run until those questions are finished that's inside that then function. Okay? What's that? Well, that's a good question. But we are going to send this out. But let's take a look at running this in the command. Yes. Yeah, from here to here remained exactly the same. No change there. It's only that we have now included a required inquirer and then run this set of questions and functions once we have those answers. So let's go to the command line then. And I don't have my command line open for the first time in a million years. No, I do. Never mind. Okay. Just kidding. Oh, you think you fancy? I got just like last week. Oh, you'll never know. Okay, sorry guys. 1 second. Okay, let's copy that over and let's go ahead. All right, now it'll work. Too many things open. Okay, so here's my command line, my terminal command line, my bash program. If I go to 11.2 activities and city space 2, and let's go ahead and run this one. So first we need to install our require. So npm install inquirer. What? No, I don't. This project hasn't been correctly set up. It doesn't have an init file. It doesn't have any of that stuff. So I'm just telling it to install this particular package and whatever dependencies this package has, of course. So whenever npm gives me that, well, that's taking a while. There we go. What is your name? What's your current position? How old are you? Still 35, y'all. Favorite programming language? Brain. Fuck. There we go. And then it runs that print function for me. Okay? Give me James. Or you can call me Fitz. My middle name is Fitzgerald. Okay, any questions about that? Any questions about why my name is Fitzgerald? Middle name. My grandmother was Republican and my father was an asshole. And so he said, I'm going to name your first grandson after JFK. But they love my name, so it backfired in his stupid face. Okay. Any questions? You have a question, Rob? I feel like you have a question.
Can you explain recursion?
No. It's an answer. Okay. So, yeah, but we'll get to it in due time. First, we're talking about inquirer. All right. So if there are no further questions on this, we will move on to go ahead and do multiple objects, okay? So we're going to slack out this code that we just looked at. And then what I want everyone to do is to attempt to make this same program, the same set of code work to allow you to enter multiple people, right? Let's say 5, okay? Make it ask you for 5 programmers. Yeah. Have it prompt, go through the prompts just like it did when I ran it this one time 5 times. And if you can go ahead and put the code that's sent to you, you can put it in a separate folder and in npm install inquirer and run it so you can see how it runs. But basically it runs how we saw here, where I just say node programmer switch prompt JS, and then it runs through the 4 prompts and then prints back the user. So the idea would be that it runs through 4 prompts, prints back the user, runs through 4 prompts, prints back the user, run through 5 times basically. It should run through 4. It should run just how it did here. Run through 4 prompts, then print out the information. Run through 4 more prompts, print out the information. Basically, just run that process of creating a programmer object 5 times. Okay. So you guys work on that for like 3 to 5 minutes and see how far you can get. Okay. Have you ever seen that book that I just posted on there? The Gang of 4. Have you all ever heard of that book? It's a really good book. It's probably one of the best books on programming ever written. And not a specific language either. It's just
General design better?
yeah, for all object-oriented programming.
I just bought that one, the guy that Jeremy interviewed on algorithms.
Oh, yeah.
He gave me the book and I bought it. It's pretty good, actually.
Really?
It's like a college textbook, but it's
Oh, the function didn't work?
This same guy, this Martin Fowler guy, he wrote a book called Refactoring. That's also really good. Refactoring. I think it's kind of old now, but it's like his stuff isn't like language specific. It's like design pattern specific. Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of timeless in a way. I mean, things do change, but not as fast.
Oh, the font, yeah. Well, we don't want it. I don't want it. I think, yeah, you those.
Okay. So, anybody who was successful in making it happen? You made something happen? What did you make happen?
I made a recursive function that
Oh, you sneaky son of a bitch.
looped it like that.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
So not very recursive.
Yeah, it wasn't the right thing.
Yeah, it did something 5 times. Anybody get to that same point?
I set up a for loop around the whole inquire dot prompt and then dot then, and it just like asked the question
4 times in a row. Yep.
I did that too.
Yours did that too?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, cool. Well, that is actually what the whole point of that 5-10 minutes that we just worked on was understanding that loops, the way that we know them, don't really work so well in this kind of situation, okay? And really it just kind of comes down to the fact that JavaScript is just too fast for its own good, okay? And that it's able to run these prompts so quickly and spin out like 4 and then 4 and then, and so you probably entered on each prompt. Anyways, not answering that. So let's talk about what we would do if we wanted to create multiple users. We wanted to iterate over these prompts. All right, so let's go ahead and see what happens if we run probably something similar to what you guys tried. I'm going to bring it up and we're going to take a look at it first, and then we're going to try to run it and return the same kind of issues that you guys ran into. So if I go here, and what's that one at? Is that not the right one? 3. Oh, okay. Yes. All right. Wrong folder. So go back to right here and let's take a look at this. All right, so same code that we saw before. I'm requiring Inquirer, and then we do exactly kind of, I think, what Joey was talking about doing, right? You put a for loop around it, easy peasy, right? It will loop and run this prompt multiple times, okay? Let me wrap this. It's like a high school dance. All right. Okay, so what do we do? Well, let's run this in the command line. I have to install Inquirer again. Uh-huh. Well, it just depends. They're all JavaScript mostly, so they're pretty slim. But I mean, when you start to get all these packages, I mean, you can just go to your project and copy it and say properties and see how much space it takes. I mean, if you're on a PC, you can do that. I'm sure there's a way to do it on a Mac. I'm just not familiar. So let's install Inquirer. And let's see how this guy runs once we get Inquirer installed.